Welcome back to The Good, the Bad and the Worst, a podcast where we discuss movie trilogies, series and other meaningful bodies of work to discover which film stabbed the devil in the back and is now deemed excommunicado. Joining me and my fellow members of the Continental.
I'm Griner, and I'm not exactly the boogeyman. I'm the one you send to kill the effing boogeyman.
And I'm Luke Morgan, and people keep asking me if I'm back. Yeah, I'm thinking I'm back.
Oh, that means John Wick, man. One of the best action film franchises to come out in recent memory. Before we dive into Stat Corner, guys, what do we think? How do we feel about John Wick?
I like John Wick. I hadn't seen 2 and 3, or I hadn't seen all of 2, and I hadn't seen 3 before this watch. But number one to me felt like a bit of a, I don't know. Every now and then these films come out and they set the standard for action films for years to come. Like we've done The Matrix, and I feel like everyone wanted to do what The Matrix did after The Matrix came out. I don't know, the Raid films, I guess everybody wanted to do those tight corridor fights, and now everybody's doing John Wick style fights. Like we watched Captain America and the Captain Winter Soldier and the Falcon, whatever that series is called. And you know, you had what's her name, Agent Carter or whatever her name is, and she was doing the John Wick style gun fu, if you will.
There were movies like Equalizer, which was just John Wick but with a different person playing John Wick, like them sort of films.
Yeah, and I mean, these films have also just transcended out of just being films. Like people describe doing cool things when you're shooting people in video games as John Wicking it, I guess, like as being John Wick. Obviously, Fortnite has a John Wick skin. Yeah, it's a good franchise. It's good.
Luke?
So, I feel like John Wick is sort of what brought Keanu Reeves from like the shadow realm and brought him back to like the forefront of media and like, you know, popular again to people who either were too young to have never seen him before and people who had sort of forgotten about him, you know? Like I feel like this is what has made him that pop culture icon to show up on the stage at E3 and like be all this stuff. And people are like, well, I love Keanu, and he can just sort of cameo in a SpongeBob movie. I think that's because of John Wick and what that did. And I feel like the quote that I started with this, I feel like that's sort of a symbolic thing of Keanu Reeves being, well, I'm back now. Like I'm back as this sort of action hero star. The first John Wick film I adore so much. It blew me away when I first watched it. The music, like the vibe, just the gun choreography. It's such a dope film, and I've watched it probably over 5 times. And like I know when I got a Blu-ray player, I bought it on Blu-ray. When I got the 4K player, I bought it on 4K and watched it again. Like it's that thing. I can always sit down and watch the first John Wick. I enjoy 2 and 3 as well. I don't feel like they're as good as number 1. We'll get into that, but
yes, we will.
But yeah, I really love these films, and Keanu Reeves is great, and they're spectacular to watch.
It's definitely funny we're living in the era of the Keanu-sance. And it's like he never fully went away, but he's definitely had this like resurgence into the public mindscape. Like you say, he cameoed at E3, he was in this video game, and it was this mind-blowing event for everybody. And all of a sudden, you know, he's coming back as memes. Everybody's talking about his relationship with, I can't remember her name, but it's just like this long-term person who wasn't famous, and it's just this example of this really grounded guy. Sort of like, I'm dating someone my age, whereas other movie stars like Leonardo DiCaprio are dating 18-year-old Italian models.
Yeah.
And it's just this film brought him back. It's like, hey, Keanu Reeves is a great guy, remember? And it's just like, yeah, we all love him too.
Yeah, like this. There's a subreddit called like Keanu is effing awesome or something like that, and it's just, I don't know, it's just pictures of Keanu being cool or hearing about the charitable things that he does, or like you say, like dating women his age. And I feel like that definitely all happened after John Wick. Like even if you look at his IMDb, like between the last Matrix movie and John Wick, like Scanner Darkly, like I like that movie, but it's not a good movie. I don't know. It's okay. It's interesting.
For
47
me,
Ronin, like there's just some bad movies
hot garbage.
I never watched that. Like for me personally, it was like the gap was Matrix to John Wick, and I was like, oh, that's right, he's back. And before that, he was still in memes, but all I ever saw of memes was like sad Keanu eating a sandwich, a bench, and I was like, man, his life's really fallen off since Matrix, you know. And then he comes back, I'm like, oh wow, he's awesome, you know. And he's become like that for the last 5-6 years, whatever it has been since the first John Wick came out.
Yeah, it's funny seeing all those memes sort of recontextualized where there's all these photos of him just looking like a really average guy on the subway, and everyone's like, "Oh man, like you're saying, Grant, his life's fallen apart. What's going on with him? Can't get a movie role." But then when this sort of happened, it came out, no, wait, this is actually he's just a really great grounded guy. Like, do you guys know
Mm.
a bit about his history or?
I know about the sad stuff, like with is it River Phoenix or
Yeah, so River Phoenix, his
yeah,
best friend
Mm.
died when they were super, super young. He lost his girlfriend, and who was pregnant with his child, was killed in a car crash. Someone else really close to him died. I can't remember. So he's just been sort of plagued with like all these people who
And-
were close to him just keep
and
dying.
he lost his wife and his dog as well, which was really messed up. Like watching these films
And then his house
and his house.
And it was a big house.
and his
Oh,
car.
such a nice house. I love that house so much. I just
Yeah,
want to live there.
it's a shame it's gone. But so
Yeah.
it's just interesting. All those memes came out, and yeah, this sort of reminds everyone that he's this great guy. It's like, oh, he's actually this really humble figure who's had a lot of personal tragedy, and as a result, he's not just this like flamboyant playboy. He's not just like I say, he's not just dating all these women and just really like trying to absorb the limelight. He's just like, no, I think he also struck a really good deal with the Matrix films. Like he made a lot of money off appearing in the sequels. So he's been able to just do whatever he wants ever since then. Hence why his career is filled with these bizarrely like passionate projects that should have never been made. Like there's a film he made a few years ago between these called Siberia, and it's woeful. It is a terrible film. And for some reason Keanu's in it. I'm like, I think he just likes these bizarre movies, like Nicolas Cage, but not as bizarre. Yeah, it's really fascinating. All right, stats. So
Stat.
that's it. John Wick. So they're all directed by Chad Stahelski, who was one of the stunt coordinators and Keanu Reeves' stunt double in The Matrix. So they've got a long working relationship. All written by Derek Kolstad, all starring obviously Keanu Reeves, Ian McShane, Lance Reddick. And then just a whole sort of who's who of different people, like Michael Nyqvist, Peter Stormare, Willem Dafoe. Just all these famous people pop up in these films.
Fishburne.
Yeah, of course. Just like a lot
Some
of
them
big
were
names.
woefully underused too, but we'll get to that.
We would.
Theon
But is it-
Greyjoy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, Jerome Flynn as well. Like a few Game of Thrones alumni coming up. So John Wick came out 2014, made 86 million to a 30 million budget. Currently holds ratings of 7.4 on IMDb, 68 Metascore, and 86% on Tomatoes. John Wick 2 came out 2017, made 171 million to a $40 million budget. It's got 7.5, 75, and 89%. And then John Wick 3 in 2019 made 326 million to a $75 million budget. And it's slightly lower at 7.4, 73, and 89% as well. Now, all these films were met with critical acclaim, and like you were saying before, Grant, I think they've definitely redefined action. Like we were living in an era post 2000 of the Matrix action, and then we were sort of living in Jason Bourne action and shaky cam.
Shaky cam.
Yep.
And that was really what we had for a while. And then the Raid came along, and we had that really tight, close space, and like sort of like Western films toying more with martial arts again. And then I think we kind of get this, and this is now every action film. Like Nobody, which came out either this year or the year before, kind of trying to play up with that. Luke, like said, The Equalizer, which is John Wick, but just a worse, but and just not nearly as good. It's definitely sort of, they've said this is how you make action films again.
Nobody's fantastic as well, by the way. It's such a good film.
Directed by Derek Kolstad. Yeah.
Or was it really directed by the same guy?
So directed by the writer of this.
Oh,
so not
okay. Yeah.
But obviously someone who lives and breathes the John Wick verse.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask a question. Do you guys remember anything about the first John Wick when it came out in 2014? Like, where were you guys when this hit?
So I didn't, and I think a lot of people are in this position where I didn't hear about it in the cinema. It wasn't a movie that I saw in the cinema or anything like that, but I just heard buzz about it after it came out. Like it was all word of mouth that this is a good action movie and you should see it. And then I just remember it being for a little while my go-to movie when I wasn't sure what to watch when I had people over who I knew would be interested in action movies. It's like, have you seen John Wick? Let's put this on. Like it was almost like a little bit indie, I guess. I don't know. It's this movie that not everybody I feel like had heard of. I don't feel like it had a big marketing push. Maybe I just missed it, but I feel like word of mouth did wonders for this movie. And yeah,
No,
that's me.
I think you're right. Yeah, Luke?
2014 was like the year I started going out with my wife. And so that year, I barely played any PlayStation games or anything like that. It was very much and movies, like I didn't watch Winter Soldier when it came out in the cinemas. Movies that year for me were very much indies about, like, indies no one had heard of, about two people traveling the countryside in Yemen or something. Like, that's what my movie.
Is that salmon fishing in
I
the
love
Yemen?
my
Is that
wife,
the
but that's
film?
what that year of movie watching was for me. And
Respect.
so I missed the whole cinema thing of this as well, and I don't remember hearing much until it was out, like, on Blu-ray, and people just reading online that this was a really cool movie. And I was like, oh, Keanu Reeves, this could be fun. And I just remember renting it from a Video Easy, which were still around in 2014 or 2015 when I did it. But
Right on.
I remember renting it on Blu-ray and sitting down and watching it, and I remember sitting there just being blown away. I was like, this is so freaking cool. Like,
Yeah.
just the choreography is just, I love it so much.
Yeah. No, you're both right. Because I was working at a video store when this came out. I remember it.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing it on the shelf, and I was just like, I had no idea this film was coming out. I had no idea Keanu Reeves was still making films or alive. And like the front cover of it's pretty lame. It's just kind of got Keanu with slick back hair. And I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about his long hair and his beard, but it's not conventionally attractive. But he's got his hair. I'm like, okay, it's a bit whatever. He's just got a gun. Seems really generic. But this was one of those massive sleeper hits. Like, it didn't have a big marketing push. It just kind of came and went, but it had a real second life on DVD and VOD. And it's just fascinating that this film, which by all intents and purposes should have just come and gone, been like, oh, it's Bruce Willis doing a Bruce Willis film again. It's Nicolas Cage making what he does now. It's just like, oh, it's Keanu's turn. What should have been just this failed thing became one of the most bankable franchises in Hollywood at the moment.
Yeah.
It's interesting comparing it to Bruce Willis and Nicolas Cage. Like, I think this really shows the difference between, like, the care that Keanu has for this franchise compared to, like, the care Bruce Willis seems to have for Die Hard now. Like, any movie he's appeared in the last, it feels like 20 years, like, he just could not care less. And he was the most bankable action star of the 90s, right?
Yeah.
Like, absolutely up there. But Keanu, like, yeah, you can tell these movies mean something to him. Like, he is John Wick. He likes being John Wick.
Yeah.
And like, you see, I don't maybe this is good press, but you see these videos of him, like, at a shooting range just practicing his gun technique and stuff like that. And it's like, this dude knows what he's doing. Like, he is really John Wick. And it's awesome.
He's always sort of been like that. Like, he obviously from Matrix, he learned heaps of martial arts and he really got into it. And he's always been like a big martial arts guy. And he trained for all these. He did 90% of his stunts for all the films. Like, these films really make me have a second, like, reconsider him as an actor. So what do you guys think of Keanu as an actor? Because he's a point of contention, despite his great personality. What do you think of his acting repertoire?
This is like the role for him. Like, I don't know. Like, I think he plays John Wick great. But he's got that, it's like I don't know if it's a disarming thing where you're like, I don't know if he's a bad actor or if he's a good actor, but he feels like he's Keanu. He's like Keanu in everything, if I feel like. And I don't know, there's certain scenes, like, he doesn't say stuff the way you'd think him to say it, but it's kind of unique in the way he does that, and it's kind of charming. But yeah, I don't know. He's a strange case of acting.
Yeah, there's that line where I can't remember if it's like the end of number 2 or something. He's like, if they come, I'm going to kill them.
Tell them all. Whoever comes, whoever it is, I'll kill them. I'll kill them all.
I'm going to kill them all. And it feels odd, but you remember it. Like, there's something to that. He reminds me a lot of Arnie, and we talked about this when it came to Arnie. Like, is Arnie a good actor, or is Arnie just the Terminator and he's doing that in every movie? But yeah, I don't know. He definitely, like, as an action star, he definitely has a presence. He definitely has that physicality. You can tell he's doing most of his own stunts or all of his own stunts. He's doing all the gun work, doing all the choreography. But when it comes to when he's actually in a speaking role, I don't know. I enjoy him. Like, I really enjoy him. I would love to see him. I mean, he probably has, because he's done some weird ass movies. But, like, see him do something that's not an action movie. I like him as Duke Kaboom in Toy Story 4. Like, I think he's really good in that.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I feel like there's moments in these films, or like there's moments in his career where you're like, oh no, he's a good actor. I feel like there's a moment in number one when like the attack first happens and like the dog's dead next to him. Spoilers, and like he's sitting there, and I feel like his emotion. I feel like he's drawing from like the trauma in his life where he's really sad about it. And there's moments like that where he can draw from his own personal experience and makes it effective. And you can tell either he's a good actor or it's just no, he's a real person who can draw this sort of emotion out from like this stuff. But yeah, when it comes to it's such a weird thing. Like Grana said that ending line in number two. It's delivered so weird, but you do remember it, but it's not like if you just heard that playing, you'd think that's the Days of Our Lives like clip almost. Like it's like it's not great, but it kind of is with him. I don't know. It's a weird thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really works in these films because the way every character sort of greets him, like every character he meets, they say, "Hey, name," and they say, "Hey, John."
Evening, John.
Evening, Jimmy.
John? Cassian.
Hello, Winston. Jonathan.
Like nobody just says, "Hey, how are you?" There's always like, "Hey, John," "Hey, Jimmy," "Hey, Frank," "Hey, John." It's all
Hey,
super
Jonathan.
still. Yeah, and then he says one line, and then he's like, "Bye, John." They're all really stilted deliveries, and I think it's intentional. Like the world is clearly built as this bizarre sort of place with these weird rules and politenesses that, even though it does feel weird, it also feels like it's the perfect sort of fitting for it. I don't know. How do you guys feel about that?
I don't like. I don't know. This world's weird. It doesn't feel believable a lot of the time once you get out of like the area of number one. I feel like, but
We'll get it. Yeah, we'll tap into that. I think that the two examples that sort of stand out as people use when considering if he's a good actor is his performances in like period pieces. Like he's in Dracula. He's in I think it's a Shakespeare adaptation, and there's another one as well. And those are the ones that everyone sort of universally derides and says Keanu's awful in these films. He can't do an accent. He can't hold presence. He's just rubbish. And then there's films like Constantine that were really critically panned and he was considered bad. And films like the aforementioned Siberia that nobody ever saw that I shouldn't have watched, but I did.
SpongeBob, Sponge Out of Water, like he shows up as a bale of like tumbleweed. But
Is he
it's
good
just
this?
no, it's Keanu just talking.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
And kind of like with Duke Kaboom as well. That's just Keanu doing Keanu.
Yeah, I know.
But there's a charm to Duke Kaboom.
Yeah. And then there are these weird roles like this and like Neo where there is almost this blank slateness to it. And it's where Keanu really shines as he's such a physical actor. Like his movements in these, he tells a story and he defines his character purely through the action. There is no need for dialogue. There's no need for him explaining what happened besides very basic exposition of my wife is dead, my dog is dead. You know who he is because you see him suffer, you see him kill, you see him load guns in really interesting ways. So like this guy knows how to handle all the weapons. You see him take his belt out and fight two ninjas. It's like this guy has this life of experience. And it's just he's limping through the rain after he's been injured, but you can just see this like stoic perseverance. And it creates this character. It's like that's who John Wick is. Any more than a monologue could give like a 16-page synopsis. You need to just see Keanu bring that physical presence. And it's a really fascinating combination.
It's just kind of amazing to me that like Point Break came out in 1991. Like he's been doing these action movies that I really enjoy for the better part of 30 years. Like, it's pretty amazing. I say what you will about his acting skills. The dude's an action star through and through.
Absolutely.
One of the best, yeah. Like
I think with John Wick, it's sort of like a return of action stars in like a weird way. Like it's like he's that sort of big thing where it's like, oh, John McClane, like the Terminator, like it's John Wick. He's that real last like big action name of a character that people just gravitate towards, you know? I don't feel like that's a thing anymore. But yeah.
Well, he sort of, because he was coming up sort of that, I guess Taken was the film that really introduced that whole dad action where Liam Neeson was this older guy who could still kick ass. And then you had like the Expendables and you had Arnie having his career resurgence after his governorship ended. And so I feel like we had this long period of like old men who could do action again.
Mm.
But then Keanu's just like, because Keanu's doing the action. The other guys are just like, they're acting and they're all ripped.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're doing the same thing. Whereas Keanu's like, here's me just kicking ass for 2 hours.
Yeah.
It feels real. It doesn't feel like CGI, like, or it doesn't feel like stunt people doing everything, and then Sylvester Stallone shows up for 1 second and be like, like it's not that sort of stuff. But I think that sort of stuff, them films disappeared with the MCU, and like that sort of, like, they are the new sort of action films, and like Captain America and Iron Man and Thor is like the new action heroes, if you know what I mean. While this sort of gun-toting sort of stuff has disappeared.
I disagree. I think both of these exist in tandem. Like, we still have Fast and Furious coming
Exactly.
out,
That was the one I was going to say. Yeah.
and they're still making
Yeah.
gas tons of money. And this still comes out like the Equalizer 2 came out a year or two ago. Like, these action films that aren't just.
Equalizer 2 is not a big thing. Like John Wick and Fast and Furious, I think, are the exceptions to the rule.
I think Equalizer is actually a pretty big franchise. I don't care for them, but like, they do come out, they make money and they make waves. Like, people are watching them. I don't care for them much, but somebody somewhere is. So I think there's like kind of like these two extremes. There's Marvel, where it's kind of like it's PG-13 action that everyone can enjoy because no one's getting killed and there's some cool stunts. And then there's sort of like this where there's this grizzled old man who should have retired probably, who's just killing entire like villages of people almost.
John Wick doesn't feel old. Like, Keanu doesn't feel old in the same way that like Arnie and that feels old. Even though he's I don't know. He should, right? He should feel older, but there's something timeless about Keanu. And there's always those pictures that go around of like that 18th century painting that looks exactly like him and stuff like that. I don't know. Maybe there's something going on there, but
I think it's not until number 3 there's that part there where he's fighting the two shinobi, and like they knock him over and he kind of struggles to his feet. Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, he is. And they comment it's like he's getting old. It's like, yeah, there is more of awareness now that the more these films increase the stakes and like the ridiculousness, the more Keanu's age does show a little bit. But then that's totally offset by just his prowess and just the way it's like he just can do this stuff.
He killed 3 guys in a bar with a pencil.
He's killed 3 men in a bar
with a pencil. I know, I've heard the story, sir.
With a fucking pencil? Who the fuck can do that?
With a freaking pencil.
Who can do that?
Who does?
All right. Does it deserve to be a trilogy then?
Grana?
I think Luke and I are going to have similar opinions on these movies, but
shit.
I really love the first movie, and I think the more they the thing I love about the first movie is you get this glimpse into this world of the assassins, but it's just a glimpse. Like, they just give you enough to interest you in it, but it's not the focus of the film. Like, you've got the Continental, and it's just really fascinating that he goes there, he can get all these services. You can't do business on Continental grounds, and then you don't get a ton of it. He's got these gold coins. You don't really know what the go is with them.
Currency, the police officer like knows what's going on, but it's just like, okay, John, I'll leave you to it. Like, evening, like
8 of those coins will get you a cleanup service that'll clean up 10 dead bodies. 1 coin will get you 2 drinks at the bar. You do the math. So I don't know how that works, but
I have an answer for this when it's
yeah. But I think it's fascinating how you get this glimpse into that world, but it's just John Wick kicking ass. The more I feel like they try to explain what's going on in the Assassin's world, the less I care.
Wow. Okay, Luke, I know you're the same. So,
like, I 100% agree with Grana. I feel like the more they expand this world and explain stuff, and it gets deeper and deeper, it feels like it's constantly like, oh no, but there's a level above this, like above the Continental, and now there's the adjudicators, and now there's actually every single person, and this woman with a pram is also an assassin. Like,
that's also not true, but we'll come back.
The more it expands, the less I care about what's going on, because the first one has that personal like reason for him to do this, right? And he's going through it, and it's like, yeah, he's killing a lot of people, but it's kind of believable that it's happening in these seedy undergrounds that like are run by like a mob or something, and people are tripping on drugs and they're not noticing someone getting shot next to them because they're just partying the night away. But he's going into these places, and he's after this personal vendetta of going after this family and taking them out one by one in these seedy underground. And then there's this assassin order that is sort of this subtle underground thing that people who know, but it's this unspoken thing. But as it goes on, it's like, well, no, this is actually the world, and the people who are living their lives, that's the unspoken thing. Like the normal people like us is this the minority in this world, apparently. But yeah,
I will explain to you. We'll come back to that when we talk about number 2. I completely disagree. I'm on the other side of this. I think that I think number 1's the worst. I think number 1 is where, easily. Like number 1, and the whole thing about the motivation, like that's not good motivation. They kill his dog, and he's like, "I'm going to kill an entire like network of mobsters." That makes no sense, and that was part of the big joke. And it comes back in all the films, right, where there was like, "It's over a dog. What the hell's happening?" And there's just like, no, everyone's like actively saying to the audience, "He's doing this over a dog." See, the motivation's absurd, but that's not the point. The point is that this is just John Wick killing people.
but I disagree. Like, obviously, those 2 films are making a joke about that, but also those 2 films are because of that it's still ongoing. And I believe and care more about his revenge on Theon Greyjoy for killing this dog over than, you put your blood on this coin 10 years ago. Remember in Zanzibar, like, this is a blood oath. You better obey this, or I will blow up your whole house because this is personal. I don't care about that. But like killing his dog the day of after like his wife's funeral, who gave him this dog as like a last thing to remember her by, that's way more personal, and I can relate to that.
See, to me, like the opening of John Wick is like the opening of Up. Like Up, you've got this little vignette, and it shows this family, and it gives you stakes in this old man and why he's trying to get out of the city or whatever. And I feel like the opening of John Wick, where it shows his pain and his loss, and then I do get that it comes around quick, and like it's bam, bam, bam. Oh, you really care about him and his dog all of a sudden. Like, I do get that. I'm not stupid, but I still think it's effective.
Oh, I think it's wise by having a dog. Like, you don't care about the wife, you care about the dog. And they show you the wife dying, and it doesn't really matter. It's until the dog gets killed. It's like, okay, now I want to see blood. And like, there's a whole, it's like a recurring joke, people talking about how you can kill anyone on screen, but as soon as the dog dies, that's like this heinous step in filmmaking. And if you kill a dog, there needs to be repercussions, because that's a really like abominable act.
It's that or a child, but nobody's willing to do that. Like, nobody's willing to put a child being killed on film. Like, it's true, you could do that. People would be outraged at the filmmakers for that.
Yeah. Unless you are like super leaning into, it's never going to happen.
John Wick wouldn't be in Fortnite if someone killed his baby. Like, it wouldn't be. It wouldn't have the same appeal. So
that's the thing. It's this weird ground where it's like safe, but also sacred. And so by doing that, everyone's invested. Like, I just think it's intentionally left as this weird, like, they killed a dog or something, but now let's just get killing. And this is why that whole emotional thing is done in the first 10 minutes. It's not like a constant theme of the film. It's like he's done, and then you've got 80 minutes of killing. And it's his motivation, sure, but it's really just like, that is just used as a starting point. And it's like, good, now that we've established that, we can get onto what this film's about, which is gun fu.
I honestly think that's all I need, though. Like, that's all I want from these action movies. And maybe that's just me, but
then isn't that what? But then 2 and 3 don't even waste time with that. They're just like, let's just get into entirely action.
They do waste time. There is more currencies in this world than a bad free-to-play game. There's gold coins, there's silver coins with blood in them, there's black coins. There's so many currencies in this land.
There's one currency.
No.
Wait till loot boxes show up in number 4. They're like, here's a chest, kick it open. He's like, yes.
All right, here's how it goes. The marker is not a currency. It's like it's a blood oath, right? It's like, I swear that I will do this. It's sacred. Coins.
I do understand, but it just feels like everybody's got a coin for every situation.
The black coins, which I think we mean as the silver ones, they're the adjudicator coins. They're more tokens, because she doesn't even give them. She just shows them and takes it back.
It's her badge.
And gold coins, I'll explain the gold coins. So they are paying payment for a service. So every coin represents that. So the bodies, it's a coin for each body, right? So you clean one body, you get 1 coin. You get drinks, you get 1 coin. But then he also goes to the map maker in number 2 and he buys the maps. He gets 3 maps, so he gives 3 coins, because that's 3 different like map services or something.
Why would you ever not be a bartender in this world, though? Then,
like,
why would you want to clean up bodies?
It's not 1 per drink; it's 1 per like service of drinks.
Okay, but that's still, as opposed to disintegrating a body and making sure the police never like get to you. like compared to a
Yeah.
vodka cruiser. Like it's like I don't know. That doesn't make any sense. And then obviously I know it's not currency, but then there's the whole thing in the two. He has like the blood oath medallion and has the cross for like his lady that
Oh,
he
number
owes
3.
stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, in number 3 has the cross as well that he proves to get his way through. Then the branding, then like the cutting the finger off. Like there's all these different things that you've got to pay and do this and do that. But ignore the whole emotional connection and the whole dog thing and the point of number 1. Personally, and I don't know if Grant will agree with this, but this just might be me. I enjoy like the choreography in the first one more. I feel like it gets to a point in 2 and 3 where they're trying to one up themselves and be so impressive with choreography, where it's like, why are people just waiting? Like there's the start of number 2 where he's in the warehouse and no one's shooting him. Everyone's it's kung fu. Now it's just melee. Everyone's doing fist. People are driving in on their car, then hopping out and being like, all right, here we go. They're running up, they're trying to punch him while his mate's standing there. It's like a video game. It's watching a video game where, okay, now this enemy will attack me, now this one, and I'll wait for that. And it feels choreographed. While in the first one, it's more just straight up shooting people and looking cool shooting people in the head as opposed to like the melee stuff and it's going through a nightclub and everyone's just trying to shoot him and he's ducking and shooting, boom, boom, boom. I feel like it's more raw and it feels more realistic instead of this whole that's now where this sort of film. So that's try and one up over and over again.
Yeah, one of my notes was like 2 and 3 require there's definitely like a suspension of disbelief for 2 and 3, like for you to be okay with them. Like as soon as they start like sewing this thin ass body armor into all of his suits so he can just get shot all the time, like it's like, oh, he's never going to get shot, and why does nobody shoot him in the head? Like I don't know. I find it a little frustrating.
But they try constantly. That's why every time he's like retreats, he pulls his jacket over his face. It's not like he's just taking him in the chest. Like he protects his head.
Scene, there's definitely other fights.
There's
where he's not doing that.
numerous scenes that happens in the tunnels, in the fight in the Continental. Like it happens constantly. Whenever he's getting like on the back foot, he chucks it up.
Okay.
And look, when you watch the first one and you watch it through, it's like, oh, I hope he gets revenge. I hope he makes it. Like people are talking him up. I feel like the stakes are meaningless in 2 and 3 because he's unstoppable. Like there's the whole thing in 3 where it's literally, okay, everyone in the world is against him. And he's like, Ian McShane is still like, the odds are even.
Do you expect him to make the balance?
$14 million bounty on his head. Every interested party in the city wants a piece of it. I'd say the odds are about even.
Like, it's like there's no stake. It's not even like John Wick's going to die. Like, it's like, well, he should be fine.
It is fun. Like I enjoy that, and I enjoy I enjoy the busker on the street being an assassin with her violin. Like that's fun. But I just think the first movie does feel more grounded to me, and I don't know.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. Like, okay, that's fine for me. I think the groundedness is what keeps it down. I think that's what keeps it into this weird stage of. It feels like it's trying to be a realistic sort of revenge film. But then Keanu's this unstoppable killing machine, and everyone's like, this guy's the boogeyman. But the whole time, it's like, but this is set in the real world with these vague rules. And for me, I find that has more of a suspension of disbelief because it's like, why is the cop just letting this happen in this real New York City where there's such an elite form of killers just operating under everyone's nose? Whereas in 2 and 3, by making it so vast, I think it actually serves to like, oh, there's this whole like parallel world operating, right? Where not everyone, but like so many people are involved in this in some way, and they're all like, there's this huge underworld that just exists throughout everything. It's like this ultimate sacred order. And then I think in that context, it's like, oh, it makes sense why the cops are okay with it because everyone knows there's like this Assassin's Guild bound by these rules of order, and you know the Continental Sacred, so they have this stuff going. Whereas I think in number 1, it's like they want to unleash themselves and they want to be like, let's just have awesome gun fu and killing, but we're also set in the real universe.
But that's the thing. Like with the cop in the first one, I'm like, oh, he's in trouble. Then the cop's there, but I feel like it's that cop who knows, and if his partner who's sitting like walking around the perimeter sees, he'd be like, what the hell's going on here? But like that cop's aware, and he's like, oh, okay, then like. It's just a noise complaint. All right. It's not like, oh, we watched you murder a bunch of people. It feels sort of like some people are aware who John Wick is and what's going on and don't want to get involved. And I love the car thing where he's like, this is John Wick's car. Like I'm not touching this. It feels more like some people know. Theon doesn't know who John Wick is. While 2 and 3, it's like every single person's like, Mr. Wick. Like everyone knows who John Wick is.
Jonathan.
Well, that's because we're seeing people who are involved in the Assassin's Order, right? Like Theon's not involved in it. He's just a mobster, whereas 2 and 3, he's dealing constantly with the Assassin's world. So everyone's going to know him in that world.
Just going back to the cop. To me, the cop, I really enjoy the cop in the first one because it's like this is a hint at a bigger world. There's like something going on here that this cop knows who John Wick is and knows what is going on, but they don't have to spell it out. They don't have to spell out that the Illuminati's, the Assassin's Guild is behind everything. Like there's a hint there that there's a bigger world. There's this big Assassin's Guild that's in control of everything. But I don't know. It's more fun to me to not know much about that, just to get little hints of it here and there. And as soon as you start pulling back that curtain, it's less fun to me.
Because
okay.
I'll just say with that one, there's like it goes back to the stakes thing where it's like, okay, how much can they get away with in the first one? They're going through this nightclub killing. How much can they get? When it's 2 and 3, it's like they can literally do anything. They're walking in a crowd of people in a subway station, pew 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 pew, shooting at each other under their jackets.
That scene is so fun though. Like it's dumb,
it is, but it's like not
really
believable.
Fun.
People would notice these people getting stabbed next to them in the subway. Like people react to like these things, and
I don't know. Have you ever been to a busy subway like in rush hour?
No, I'm in a small rural town. I don't know what these things
are. In things like that, people don't notice crap, man. But it's like with the dance club. Like people get shot in the dance club, and but people are getting shot, like stabbed in the dance club, and everyone's just like, yeah, cool, it's part of the party.
But
like
you got the music and it's more believable in a nightclub.
I just love when that music kicks in. They do that in every movie, but when that music kicks in and he just goes off, it's so good.
I'll just say quickly, the first one has a banging soundtrack as well, and I feel like 2 and 3 don't have these licensed tracks where stuff kicks in, but there's like 2 or 3 songs in number 1, like "Killing Strangers," even though it's by dirtbag Marilyn Manson, but that song's cool. And there's like 2 or 3 songs when he goes into the nightclub and this like licensed track starts playing. Think. I was going to say it, but I don't know if you'd know it. I love that song so much.
That song.
And then it's memorable, and I feel like 2 and 3. I can't remember any songs if there were, but I don't think there is any like. Songs,
I think you're right. I think it is an original score in 2 and 3. Yeah, no, I'll give you that. That is one thing the first one has over it a little bit. It combines them, and then 2 and 3 have like John Wick's theme a lot more, and they really lean into that. I'm not going to try to hum the tune, but
please do.
that theme that everybody knows it's from there. But you're right. Like that nightclub scene in the first one is one of the best scenes of the whole franchise, potentially the best. Like because it's just this great. That scene is so good. Like it's so beautifully shot. But the music works so well to like offset the just like this violence. But then in number 2, you've got the dance party scene where he's like charging through the Colosseum, and there's like that.
That's my favorite scene in number 2. Like it's really good there too.
Yeah.
And so even though it's not like I say, it's not a licensed song. In granted, what you're saying, I think all these films have a great combination of music to action. Like I was really reminded of Baby Driver watching these again.
Yep.
And how like Edgar Wright is really revered for that. Everyone's like, this guy knows how to direct music with action. I'm like, Chad Stahelski's doing the same thing, and I guess I didn't realize it as much until I rewatched him. Like he's doing a really good job. We're not going to agree about which one's the worst. So
that was the topic of does this deserve to be a trilogy?
Yeah.
I still think it deserves to be a trilogy. Like I have so much fun with all 3 of these movies.
And I'm keen for the next one.
I'm keen to see where they go with them, yeah.
There's also the spin-off series as well, which is I think it's a prequel, which will be weird, but
I wasn't aware.
Is it called Ballerina? What's it about? Do we know?
All I remember was that it was looking at like the earlier years of the Continental when last I checked. And then obviously 4 is coming out next year. 5 is coming out hopefully the year after. So there is a lot more that they're dipping into.
Yeah, it's going to get insane.
like I'll hand it to you. I think number 3, the weakest parts of the third film are the ones where they go into depth of like the broader universe. Like he goes to see the mystic in the desert.
The chairman where he just walks through the desert.
Yeah, and like I still really like that. I think it's fun, but it's definitely like the lowest part of it where it's kind of it drags away a little bit, and they are trying to really flesh it out a bit. So I'm curious. I want to see if number 4 they go full ball into that, or if they draw it back a bit more and just say.
I think it'd be great if they brought it back to like a ground level and went a more subdued thing. I don't think they will, but it'd be interesting to go from
It's
that
going to be like
high
a
to
civil
come
war,
back
isn't it,
to
between the Bowery and the.
Well, these ones are filming all. These are a lot more global. They're filming in Paris and Tokyo for these as well, rather than just New York mostly. But it definitely seems like it's going to be a civil war. But it's like Fast and Furious. They're getting bigger and bigger. They can't. Fast 10 is not going to be this small like dirt race or street racing
Well,
film.
I mean, the Fast movies are just about family, so
Another
I
meme.
had to get the meme in there.
It's going to really date this podcast.
Yeah.
I remember the classic joke.
Oh, yeah, for 1 week. Which do you guys think's the worst then? Because we're going to disagree on this.
Grant, I'm interested in hearing your opinion.
I don't have the strongest opinion on which one I think is the worst. I think 3 is the worst. I could be swayed between 2 or 3, honestly. I do feel like 3 definitely suffers from, as Luke I know has this complaint that like everybody in this damn world is an assassin. Everybody's getting this text message about the $14 million bounty on his head. Whereas number 2, like obviously not. Personally, number 1's my favorite. Number 2, I think, has some really good scenes. Like I do enjoy the first kill of number 2, like going through those ruins, going through the Colosseum, talking to that dude's sister, and her like killing herself. And there's just a really cool vibe there.
It's a really good
She
scene,
calls him
yeah.
like the specter of death or something like that, and like he really feels like that in that scene. And you get the fun scene. I think it's a fun scene where they're walking through that subway, shooting at each other with the silencers. Like, totally unrealistic, but nobody's watching that for the realism of it. It's just fun.
No.
Yeah.
But number 3, I'm not sure that Halle Berry is an interesting character.
Really?
Yeah, she's fine. Her dogs are kind of cool, I guess. It just reminded me like a Call of Duty perk, though, like where you get the dogs that run around with you. Like, they're just super overpowered.
Play too many video games.
Yeah, and it feels like he meets a lot of characters that don't really have much to do or say in number 3.
Fair
So,
enough.
like, I've had this belief sort of underlying. So, I feel like 2's the worst in my opinion.
Wow.
And so I remember being really disappointed in 2 when I first watched it. After loving the first one, I was like, it's a bit out there and a bit crazy. I don't like Ruby Rose in number 2. I feel like she's such a I'm acting. I'm pulling this cool face.
She's bad.
They introduced the whole thing that I don't like that wasn't in the first one of this like the big text showing up on the screen. Like it's like they're trying to give it a vibe. I don't like that. I don't like
Do you
this
mean?
whole
But do you mean the subtitles?
like the big subtitles. Yeah.
That happens in the first one.
Well,
It's just
okay.
used a
I
lot more
wasn't sure about.
sparingly.
I feel like the first it wasn't noticeable, and I really noticed it in 2 and 3. Obviously, because Ruby Rose is like mute, so she's like has big text popping up all the time in flaming neon letters, like being like Mr. Wick or whatever. But I
think
don't
that's
like
cool.
her. I think it's overdone. That's all. And it's
This
cool.
whole
like,
all these movies are overdone.
Yeah, they are.
That's the point.
But I don't like Ruby Rose. She's annoying. She detracts from that. There's stuff into I don't know. Like it's more about I like certain things in 3 more than I dislike more in 2. Like I think the whole thing of the guards wearing bulletproof helmets and stuff in number 3 adds this cool thing where they have to figure out ways to kill him, and he's like holding their head down, shooting them in the neck,
like shooting in the chink in the armor. Yeah,
we get to see Charon,
Lance
Reddick, like do that as well. Even though I'm not a fan of the adjudicator, I like this whole thing of her just walking up to Lawrence Fishburne and being like, "No, you've got 7 days." It feels much more like the stakes are real. Like, okay, they don't mess around, and then like they slice him up. The ninjas like wiping people out, just like even though they're no match for John Wick, but even to start number 3, and there's this whole thing. He's already like really injured. He goes to the doctor. Then there's the really cool knife fight, like with like the 5 people, where it's so brutal. Like axes are involved. He's like throwing 6 different knives in people's heads.
Yeah,
it's just really brutal. And that final fight scene with like the, like the night vision goggles and like the armor plated helmets and stuff, I think puts 3 over 2 for me. I like the dog combat. Yeah, it's a Call of Duty perk, but I like seeing the dogs like boom, boom. She shoots twice, then the dog attacks, and then
Oh, it's
turns
awesome.
around, shoots another one, then the dog attacks that.
It made me wonder whether those dogs were CGI, like because if they're real, like there's some really good training and like choreography going on there.
Yeah,
I know Halle Berry like trained for months with dogs to handle them. Like she did a huge amount of training for this. I didn't look at that specifically, but I think a lot of it is most of it is like real dog handling. It's not just CGI dogs. There's probably some scenes that are edited.
Oh, I mean,
but
I'm sure it's touched up, but yeah.
yeah,
but yeah, like there's the stuff with the desert I don't like in number 3, where it does add to that, where it's super weird. Now you walk through the desert for 100 miles and then keep walking, and then he'll appear if he wants you to, and he's just like this guy just sitting there. He's like, okay, well, you're back again. But the strong parts of 3, which I think I like a lot of the choreography in 3, where it's kind of not more realistic, but it's like the knife fight. I love the knife fight. And yeah, like I said, the armor plated thing puts it over 2 for me personally. But yeah,
3's got some phenomenal set pieces. Like even the opening kill with that stupidly tall guy in the library.
the book fight. Oh, and
Yeah,
he's just smacking
like
him with the
snaps his
books.
neck. Oh, it's so
It's
good, and
brutal. It's so brutal.
It's just such a great way to start the film. Like this dude is like twice Keanu's size, just comes in
The library, and he's just like, "Yep,
yeah,
who would
love it.
notice?"
Love it. Yeah, okay. Look, I'm going to stand by number 1. Like, I think, for the sake of it, I can say number 3 is the worst because number 1 does have things that I like stand out in a lot of ways. I think number 1's got the best. It's because it's filmed a lot more of like a sort of like a neo noir film. Like feels very like weirdly colorful. It's shot kind of noirish. It feels like it's got those neon sort of colors in a lot of ways. Like these films do such great shots at framing color. There's all these great scenes like Keanu standing in windows in doorways, or like even the scene where just like great scenes where they kill what's her name in the first one, Perkins. And it's just really well framed, like the night lights coming in. It's just there's a lot of beautiful stuff like that.
Dude, Willem Dafoe is in number 1. Willem Dafoe is awesome,
and he is great. Like number 1 in a lot of ways has got some of the best visuals, and they do kind of lose that focus in the next 2. But
so you like 2 more than 3?
I think 2's the best.
Okay.
So we'll get to that. But I mean, yeah, like I still think number 1's the worst, but I'm happy to just say number 3 is the worst for the sake of a unified front.
This is the first time we've been all everybody's had a different opinion.
That's true.
Which is interesting.
I guess who's to blame then for number 3? What's to blame?
I mean, it's the same problem with 2 as well, but 3 is just more of it, I guess. I don't know. I blame the desert scene. It's like it's the real weak point of that movie. I feel
It's bad.
It's like so both of you guys just don't like the universe getting fleshed out, really.
I wouldn't dumb it down to that. It's like it's not being fleshed out where it's like, I don't know. It's like here's the universe. Oh, it's a big fleshy monster. Like it's too much. Like there's no mystery to it. There's no yeah.
Like to me, the Assassin's Guild in the first one is like a folktale, right? Like you kind of get these glimpses into something that could be really that's either really interesting or really scary. It's like if someone's telling you about the Illuminati and how they're in control of everything in the world, it's kind of interesting for them to be like, and Bill Gates is one of them, but he's doing this and this, like to tell you a story about it, but not tell you, well, the structure of the Illuminati is that there's this guy at the top, he's got 3 guys under him, and then he has an army of 7 dudes who control these 4 corporations. Like that's a lot less interesting to me than just giving me the little tidbits, the interesting parts about this universe.
Okay, I guess how many times though can you get told that story until you're like, yeah, I've heard this. I want something. I want to know the intricacies, right? Like, because does this trilogy just look like the first film 3 times?
That's right. Like, I don't have a solution to make the other 2 better, other than keep I think they're good movies. I just don't. That's why I enjoyed the first one more.
One feels different. If one was like John Wick 3, where it goes more into this, but it has that little peak, and I know they do have to sort of expand on it since they went with the whole, not even trilogy. They're going to hit John Wick 7, like they're
hopefully
going to keep expanding this, and they had to do that. But like Ryan said, it's not like this Illuminati thing where people are like, oh no, there's a conspiracy theory that there's like this assassin order. It's like everyone should be like, you know what? I do see a lot of people get shot in the head, like with all these trained like silenced pistols in the subway, or like all these people seem to get text messages at the same time. There is something definitely weird happening in this world. Like it
Have you
seems like
Have you played Pokemon Go? I walk around and
maybe
I see groups of people on their phone. I'm like, shit, someone's about to get got.
I didn't trust any of them Pokemon Go players either.
Oh, that's how it operates in the real world. It's like catch a Pikachu is kill this person, man. It's all code.
I thought so. I did think so. I've been saying that for years. So
That's a strong knit community. We're making some bad enemies here.
we're gonna get checked.
Oh, good for him. We got to get contracted, man.
We're gonna be excommunicado. And see,
I love it.
man, the way that they do that is it Perkins in the first one, where just the 4 people walk up and just shoot her.
Yeah,
Like that's it's like
That's
oh,
great.
you don't mess around. You don't fuck around with these
No.
people.
I just love Ian McShane's the way he says excommunicado every time it comes up. He's like,
Jonathan, you leave me no choice but to declare you excommunicado.
they were excommunicado.
Yeah.
I could listen to that man talk all day.
I love the way he says parabellum.
Yeah.
in the third one.
He is the MVP, I think, besides Keanu. He is so good in these films, Ian McShane.
Yeah, there's a few recurring characters, like Lance Reddick's really good as well.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so Granny,
Can I just say something?
Mhm.
I have no idea. Like I've watched this trilogy a few times. I've watched the first one the most. I've watched 2 only twice, and I've watched 3 maybe 4 times or so. For some reason, never ever until this most recent watch was like, wait a minute, this is Neo and Morpheus. Like for some reason, just never had that connection of these 2. And then even when they introduced, and like, oh, I knew him from a long time ago before I was awakened or something like that.
Yeah,
and
it's
I'm
great.
like,
It's so good.
is this a reference to Matrix? But like, I don't know why. Every time I've watched this, I've never related it to the Matrix for some reason. It's such a weird thing.
It's just really fun seeing the character switch. Like Morpheus is such a jovial sort of like exuberant guy in this.
Somebody please get this man a gun.
Whereas in the first,
the Bowery.
yeah, in the Matrix, he's just like this stoic voice of wisdom. It's just really fun to see him just flip that. And Keanu this time just stares and listens.
He's
This homeless dude obsessed with his pigeons.
It is
Like
pigeons.
he's
so
off the
good.
deep end.
He's so good in these films, and I'm so
The
glad
information
he's alive.
super flyway. He's amazing. Grani, you said you have no quick fix then. Luke, do you have a quick fix?
No, I'm very much in the same boat as Grana. Like the fact that they went a trilogy with this sort of like 2 and 3 would be weak still if they kept going with what 1 did in a way. But I think that's why is 1 special, because it's this sort of this peek into this world. It's way more subdued. It's more subtle and feels more raw and underground.
Yeah.
But I don't know how you fix that problem.
I actually had hoped, because I hadn't seen 3 and I wasn't sure which direction it was going to go, but I had kind of hoped that, and I don't think I'd even seen the end of 2, to be honest, but I was kind of hoping that like the Continental would kind of defect from the wider order and he would have some allies because they're making 18 films, that's probably the direction it's going. Like it feels like we're going in a direction where the Bowery is going to be up against the rest of the Assassin's Guild, or however they're going to, set the sides. But that's I don't know.
Let's touch on that. What do you think happens at the end of 3? Do you think Winston betrayed him, or do you think Winston is?
No.
Okay.
I think he knew. He had to know.
Otherwise, he's a really bad shot, and shouldn't have just kept shooting him in the.
And also, he wouldn't be like, "Oh, I don't care if he got away. He's dead or whatever." Like,
because I think then you're right. The Continental is going to break away. Like the Continental and probably the Bowery as well. I think will become like this. Like New York will become this resistance, because they kind of play at that a bit in number 3, where the Adjudicator's like, we are the High Table, and Ian McShane's like, we are New York City. I think it'll become this thing. It's like them against the rest of the world.
Yeah, I think that's the way to do it, and I like that, because then John Wick has that loyalty of them, and they don't feel like, oh well, no, you broke one of our rules, now we have to shoot you as well.
Yeah, I like the idea of just being like sort of the friendship, the power of friendship that really trumps it, and like they're all just buddies, and they're like, we don't need rules, guys, we got love, and let's just win this war with love.
That dude was a dick. Of course, John Wick's allowed to shoot him in the head on the Continental.
Tito's such a twat.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Dagfad makes all the difference. Jonathan?
I mean, some of the charm of these movies is the relationships between the obvious history that these characters have that you're only getting this glimpse into. And I do feel like they kind of spit in the face of that by being like, well, no, sorry, you killed a dude who's very obviously a bad guy on these grounds, and he was obviously abusing the safe harbor rules. And I don't know.
But without rules, we're the same as the animals.
Can I just say, John Wick 3 also has the horse fight. Where
So
he's, like,
gangster.
kicking people off motorbikes while he's riding his
So
horse and smacking
freaking cool.
horses so they can kick people in the head and kill them. It's,
Or he hangs down the side of it, which is a Metal
Yep.
Gear Solid 5 move. Sorry,
Yes.
more video games references.
yeah.
I think again, Keanu trained this. Like he learned how to ride horses and do this cool stuff.
Mm.
Much love. Do you guys reckon anyone deserved better then? I don't feel like anyone's done dirty in this. Everybody
but
is.
Granted, touched on it
shining.
earlier. Like Lawrence Fishburne's underused.
He wasn't
Great
even the one I
actor.
was thinking of.
But Willem
his,
Dafoe
na-
is great as well.
his name
I
has
miss
like
him.
completely left my brain, but the brother of the guy he kills in the first one, who's at the start of number 2.
Oh, Peter
Um,
Stormare.
Peter Stormare.
Peter Stormare, like he's.
Oh, I
I'm
love him.
hoping he comes back because surely that's not the end of his arc, right? Like, it feels like a weird place to end off with him.
I feel like it's just a cameo though.
Just to
Why,
tie up
though?
the first one.
Why Peter
Yeah.
Stormare as a cameo?
Because
he's
Michael
great.
Knight, yeah,
great.
because
He is
Michael
great.
Nyqvist, Michael Nyqvist is one of those. I think I would put them in the same category. Like they're somewhat prolific actors, but they're not names that everybody knows. Like most people would
know
see,
their face. But
yeah, most people, yeah. So most people would see either and be like, I know that guy from somewhere.
Mm.
And I think it's just kind of that same sort of thing. It's like we felt that way in the first one, and then with this, it's like he's just a nice sort of character actor to tie that off and be like, yeah, of course he'd be the brother of Michael Nyqvist.
But because of what they've done in 2 and 3 now, it feels so weird for him to come back in a way. It'd be like,
Yeah.
no, I'm more powerful than all the other assassins that try to kill you for the last 2 movies and like the High Table and all this. I hope he comes back because I love Peter Stormare, but
I mean,
Yeah.
there could even be like if New York City's what defects from the whole thing, it's like they need the help of all the mafia and the mobs.
Yeah.
And so the Russian mob, they're like, cool, come help me.
yeah,
That'd be
maybe.
nice.
Mm.
All right. So, Luke, you think that Lawrence Fishburne's underused?
I love watching him so much. Like I think every
Yeah, he's
scene he's
good.
in is like a highlight. So I'd like to see more. I think he's more underutilized in 2. In 3, he's in a few more scenes, and has his return. But
Yeah.
I definitely want to see him more. Like and Lance Reddick as well. I think he's great.
Like when they cut him down in 3, I'm like, oh, does that mean that's the end of Lawrence Fishburne? Like, I want more of the Bowery. Like, they're so cool. But I mean, obviously, he's still alive. Nobody
Yeah.
dies in these movies.
No, some of those punishments are pretty mundane. Like the Russian lady, Angelica Houston, she just
Yeah.
kind of gets stabbed in the hands. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that's fine. It's not a big deal.
And all he did was give John Wick a gun.
Yeah,
Like, she
yeah.
helped him after the hit was out on him. And
Yeah. Some of that is a little bit out of sync, for sure.
But do you guys like the Adjudicator?
She's not. I don't want to compare her to Ruby Rose because I think Ruby Rose is just bad.
Yeah.
She's got a presence to her, definitely, and I love her character. The fact she just kind of walks in and just kind of like, and she really does hold her own. Like there's all these like Ian McShane and other characters are kind of like, she just walks up in their face and it's like, this is what's happening, and they're like, you can kind of tell in all the performances that they're trying to sort of stand tough, but they know that she has more power than them.
Mm.
Yeah.
Did anyone else feel like she was just trying to play Tilda Swinton? Like, she totally feels just like,
Yeah.
yeah,
We couldn't afford Tilda Swinton.
yeah.
So. But she has like a threat. I think her role has a threatening presence. Like the fact
Yeah.
that he's like, no, you went against the High Table. We'll cut you up now. Like it feels threatening. What about the I forget his name, like the head of the ninjas guys. It's a John Wick fanboy.
Oh, he's tops.
Yeah, like I see, he annoyed me a bit.
Really?
It's too
It was,
much.
always
I
like,
feel-
it was a
I
good
do
fight,
like
wasn't
him.
it?
I do like him, but there's too much of it. Like I want it to be like there's a hint of him being like a fanboy, but it's too much like a comedy thing and it's not there for like the first half of the movie. Like the first half, he's like this actual threatening like leader of this assassins, and as soon as he's in the presence of John Wick, he's like, "Oh God, is that
But
the
that's-
dog?"
But that's because he never confronts him until the second half. Like
No,
it'd be weird if he was just like, I get to kill John Wick soon. Whoa, that would be strange. It makes sense that as soon as he sees his idol, he's just like, he can't help himself, and he's just like, oh, that's like, I think it's fun. Yeah, I think it's cool.
Yeah.
I liked Cassian more as like his rival assassin, but
Hmm.
in the second.
Cassian's great because they've got that real sort of mutual respect and camaraderie. That like even though they have to fight, like the fact that he leaves the blade in his aorta.
The blade is in your aorta. You pull it out, you will bleed and you will die.
This is the end of the line.
Consider this a professional courtesy.
He's like, you pull it out, you'll die. It's like you can tell that John likes him. He doesn't want to have to do this.
Yeah.
Whereas someone like Ruby Rose, he just kills her and he has no concern. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, they've got heart, they've got friendship there. It's
It's such a good scene where they're like talking just after he kills his target at the start of number 2. He's like, yeah, good night. It was.
yeah, afraid so.
Unfortunately.
Afraid so, yeah.
I forgot that he left him sort of alive. So he'll be
Yeah,
back.
I thought he was going to come back for sure, but and maybe he will still.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how you get a knife out of your heart and survive, but
Well, isn't that kind of the story of Lawrence Fishburne though? Like John Wick did the same sort of thing to him.
he gave him that scar, yeah.
Yeah,
I guess
well, the way he described it, it sounded like he was in a similar position where he couldn't do anything without dying, and so had to go get help and couldn't.
It was. I just mean, I don't know anything about surgery, but I'm just like, I don't know how you take a knife out of your heart and you go, okay, we'll quickly stitch your heart up. I feel like that's harder than your throat, but
it's just going to be part of his arsenal in the fourth one.
he's got a cannon.
Around,
He's got a cannon in his heart.
like Iron Man with all the debris in his chest. Yeah,
yeah, it keeps it there going.
All right. Which film wins? We kind of already talked about it, Phil. You guys both think number one is
voted.
Yeah.
We both think number one.
Number one.
I'm really surprised how this turned out.
So 2's your favorite?
Yeah. So I guess I'll give my piece about number 2. I think number 2. So number 3, I will concede can get too far into its own lore and spends a bit more time. It also, it's much more concerned with set pieces. Like number 3 definitely has that feeling of here is the horse motorbike chase that ends. Here's this other thing. Here's the dog gunfight in Morocco.
Yeah,
you can sort of see where they start and end. It's like, okay, here's just some cool ideas. How do we get there? Which is still really fun, but it feels more constructed. Number 2, I think, has the best narrative flow overall, and it's really well paced as well. Like, I think Santino's a good bad guy because again, it tips into this. It feeds into like what you guys were saying. It feeds into the broader universe without going explicitly what they do. And it's like, oh, there's a marker now. It's like, okay. So this is why John could be the boogeyman, because he's actually not the boogeyman. He got this other Italian guy to help him out.
Yeah.
And I really like the fact that it kind of disarms John a bit more. It's like he's not this unstoppable force. He's like he is still human. And then
he's an unstoppable force as well.
But I don't know. I think these films, what they do great is you always feel like he could actually die at any moment because he gets stabbed and he's limping. Like he gets knocked down and he's not just like, he's not Steven Seagal where he's just like killing everybody with one shot and like his kung fu blows never miss. Like John Wick takes a beating, his face gets all effed up and like he's in pain. I think that really works. It's like he could actually probably die. I would believe it if like he got his hand shot off or something and had to figure it out because it's not so much that he's unstoppable, it's that he's a force of will. He is a man of focus.
Sheer freaking will.
Exactly. And like that's his whole thing is that he is vulnerable, but he's just determined to do stuff and he gets it done. And I think 2 has those, like it has that phenomenal action piece where they're going through the ruins and it's done. Like the gunshots are timed to the music and it's just, I don't know, you feel your body getting into it when you watch it. Like it's energizing.
It is. It's really good.
And then it ends on a really good note as well. I love the cliffhanger ending where it's like, we've seen 2 films where John is like the boy of this universe and everyone loves him and everyone's afraid of him. And then it's like going into number 3, we know John's actually against this whole universe. Like that's a really cool way to end the film.
Yeah.
It's a good like final scene. Like I do really enjoy it. Yeah.
And he has an hour.
How do you guys feel about the weird sort of like suicide girl message distribution center?
It's weird, eh? Like one of my notes is like, what, can't they afford like electronic switchboards? Like part of me is like, oh, there's a security there, but I don't really believe that. As in, like, surely they have families or people they love that could, like, there's a human element there that can always be manipulated.
It's just to look different and cool and
make
this world look. And it's sort of like the same thing of like, sorry, you're perfect for this job. You don't have some tattoos. Like you need tattoos,
But
you
that's
show
just
sleeves, and
but that's JB Hi-Fi, right? You guys have been there.
Only 2 ear piercings. Sorry, you're out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Like we have these businesses that operate that way.
true.
I
Even
kinda
games and
lo-
blue hair.
Yeah. Can confirm. I like it. I know. I think there is like that again, suspension of disbelief, but like you said, it's a security thing. It's like this is all archaic. There's no emails to hack. They have pneumatic tubes. It's like, yeah, I'm willing to believe that that's why, and they all do
And
it on
then-
typewriters.
And then the adjudicator calls, and it's like a guy with piercings. Like he's like the adjudicator's person that she calls. And
Yeah,
he's like he looks the same, but he's like a guy version. He's like, okay,
you know,
place a hit on these people. Or no, it's what is it? Deconsecrated.
yeah, deconsecrated.
Yeah.
The Assassin's Guild does not forgot the word. It's not. It welcomes everybody, right? Women and men, and all. It's not just suicide girls. It's suicide men.
As long as they have tattoos and piercings.
As long as they have tattoos and piercing, yes. There's a dress code here.
Yep.
There's a like from a film standpoint, it's more interesting to watch them call this call center and watch them run around, get the folder, go to the Fallout 3 green terminal, and type in their thing, have someone write on a chalkboard. Like that's more interesting than the dude sending off a text and getting a reply back saying it's done or something like that. Like it adds something to watch while they're setting up these hits, which is fun.
Yeah. And it kind of fits the whole. This has been around since like maybe forever. And so, they're still catching up to technology. Like they've had this thing set up for so long, and they've kind of got away. But maybe it's slow moving, so it's not going to upgrade completely yet because this works.
All their research and development went into body armor that can be sewn into a suit.
Exactly, typewriters work just as well. You don't need computers.
Yep.
I don't know. That's about it, really. I think. Do you guys have any other questions?
We praised number one a lot in the discussion about does this deserve to be a trilogy? But
yeah,
that's true.
I love one so much. I feel like it has that thing as well. Like it starts with him crashing that car, looking at the video of his wife, and then sort of like passing out. There's a part of one where you feel like, at least when you first watch it, and you're not aware of the trilogy, but when you first watch it, you're like, does he die? Like, is this like this revenge quest that's just going to end with his own death as well? And every time you feel like it's resolved, and then it's like, oh no, well now they killed Willem Dafoe. Like, and then it's getting deeper and deeper, and it's satisfying to see him kill Theon, and it's satisfying to see him take out Theon's dad. I forget the characters' names, but it's I love the arc of number one, and it feels like obviously they didn't know if there'd be a sequel, so like it feels more like a standalone action flick.
Oh, that's what I don't like. Number one, the final action scene where he fights that dude hand to hand. How is that? How should that even be a fair contest? We've seen John Wick take on an army, and then Michael Nyqvist comes in. He's like, "I'll take you on mano a mano," and he puts up a fair fight. That's horse crap.
Yeah, I agree. It should have been just like a straight up, like this is the end. Like this isn't Kingpin and Spider-Man or anything like that. Like John Wick just kills him.
Like he does that with Theon. He just walks straight up and shoots him,
which I love as well. Doesn't torture him, doesn't do anything, and he's just like, everyone's got a price or whatever it is. Like everything's got a price.
Yeah. It's a good line.
Yeah.
So that really frustrates me, that ending. I'm like, that should never have happened.
But
where
he's pretty injured by that point as well, and it's kind of believable. Well, in the third one, he's like mortally injured, and then still killing a whole league of ninjas and all these assassins.
Like I say, we've seen him even in the first one though. Like he gets shot, and he's fixing up his body when Perkins like surprises him.
Oh, so he still punches him in the wound.
Oh, it's so brutal.
Oh, man.
It's really brutal.
It's like we've seen him, like he's not in a good state in that one. So, but then he takes on like a huge army after that. But then it's when he finally comes up to the big boss. He's like, all right, I'm struggling. Like, nah.
I do like, I like Willem Dafoe, like as the guardian angel, like just shooting next to him, just constantly sort of being there to save him. Even when he's tied to that chair, and it's like, well, now he's got a bag around his head. Willem Dafoe's just like, I'll just shoot these people. I'm here looking out for you.
Good guy, Defoe.
What a bro.
Dennis Franz. That's it. Who's Dennis Franz play?
Ian McShane.
No.
He's
I don't want to replace any of the good recurring actors. Is the problem?
He's ninja rival in 3.
I think he works as a because Franco Nero plays the Continental Manager in the second one in Italy.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, Franco Nero is like the perfect cast there. It's a really nice homage, but Dennis Franz he would fit in there as well. Like same sort of build and like has a career behind him.
Yeah.
This has nothing to do with that. I just like in the first one the bodyguard, the big tall bodyguard who's a professional wrestler, Kevin Nash, and he's just like, "Oh, you've lost some weight. Like, take the night off." Like,
Oh,
yeah, and he's just like, "Yes, okay." He's like,
He's
this
like, yeah, it's like,
7
thank you,
foot
Mr.
tall
Wick.
dude, and he's like, "Thank you, Mr. Wick.
Oh,
I'm gonna leave now."
it's so good.
Yeah, the mythos around John Wick is really good in the first one. Like they just everybody knows who John Wick, even before the audience knows who John Wick is. Like, yeah, it's a really good way to set up the boogeyman.
Hmm. And there's that great scene where you see as Vigo's his name. Vigo's describing him to like his son, and it's like keeps crossing back to John, like smashing the ground with a sledgehammer to bring out the guns.
Yeah.
It's just the weirdest. It's just such a great it's a great contrast. How do you guys feel about him wearing suits all the time for everything? Because my wife watched this with me, she's like, "Why is he wearing a suit? That's terrible. Like it's a terrible outfit to fight in."
A good tailored suit, I don't think. There's definitely a James Bond vibe to these movies in some ways, like especially the second one where he goes around and he goes to like the map maker and the guy, the wine guy, the concierge, the sommelier. That's it. Like there's definitely like a James Bond visiting Moneypenny and Q vibe to those scenes, and I think John Wick's just channeling that.
And it's like, I don't know, it sort of feels like a requirement. Like even they're in the middle of the desert and he welcomes him back to the order and they're like, here's your new suit again. Like it's like here's your suit again, like it's part of the job.
Yeah. I think it serves, I created this in my mind, I don't know if it's true, but I think it serves two really good purposes. Like part of it is it's the uniform of killers, right? Like everyone who's an assassin needs to look good. So this is his he only wears this when he's killing because they do a good job contrasting it with his house clothes. He just wears plain white shirts.
Yeah.
And then his suit is like this nice black one. And when he's really killing, it's pure black. Like even his shirt is black. So they do a really good job there of just costuming it up.
And,
but also think
sorry, I was going to say I do like that in the first one with he's lounging around the house like these trackies and stuff, but it is that like unveiling where his whole back's tattooed up, like he's got these tattoos and it's like, who is this guy? Like is he just this guy who has a dog and like they've taken his car? Like this guy's means business, and it sort of has that mystique about him is being revealed, and I do like that sort of thing.
But I think as well, like if you're going to try to be the best killer in the world, by constantly having to do it in like suits where your movement is somewhat hindered, it's like Jet Li from Naruto. If you train with weights on your legs, as soon as you take them off, you're unstoppable, right?
Yeah.
So it's like by always killing in a suit, he knows he's at his very best form.
Because if you ever catch him in his boxes, like he's just gonna.
Well, no, he'd be even better. But it's like if he just fought in his boxes, and for some reason someone prisoned him and put him in a suit, he'd be like, "What do? I can't fight in these restricting pants, man."
Yeah. Learn to fight in a suit, and a man will fight forever.
And then we'll fight for. Yeah, the old saying.
The old classic saying.
All right, I'm pretty much done. Do you guys have anything else you want to
add? This is kind of, I don't know. This is a weird observation that my brain made, but I'm pretty sure you've seen this movie, Conan. But have you guys seen Equilibrium, the Christian Bale movie?
No, I haven't.
So it kind of came out. It came out around the time of The Matrix, and it was like, this is like The Matrix, and I really enjoy it. I think it's a fun movie. It's not particularly great, but it has this thing in it called gun katars, where they do all these movements with the guns to shoot the dudes around him. You should look that up at least, Luke.
Yeah.
Do you guys I don't know. I guess this question is for you, Conan. Is John Wick just doing gun katars without the I don't know, the wankiness,
the samurai-ness,
pretentiousness?
Yeah, I had the same thought. Like these films are like Gun Fu isn't a new invention. Gun Fu came around from Hong Kong cinema of John Woo and stuff. Like all this sort of action does exist in a milder form, and I think gun katars is definitely like sort of trying to go next up on the Matrix.
Yep.
Or they had slow-mo and cool fights, we can go one up it then. I think this is definitely like the next manifestation of it as well. So I think it probably took some inspiration from Equilibrium as well. Like, I know Equilibrium I like that film, but you're right, it's not phenomenal.
I do too.
It has one of those very unique action flavors. Like it's really sort of recognizable.
Yeah.
And I think just as this is, they're both really inspired by that, like the combination of martial arts and gunplay.
I have nothing to add.
You have nothing to add?
Go watch Equilibrium.
Yeah, it's worth it. Good Christian Bale performance.
Yep.
All right, cool. Next week, what have we got?
So, I felt like watching these movies, there was always this sort of underlying religious tone to it. Like he has this cross, and there's these sort of phrases and stuff like that. So, I figured we'd sort of veer off into something new with like a sort of a religious trilogy. So we're going to be
What the
discussing a god, not hell, no, the God of Thunder. We will be doing the Thor trilogy from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which includes Thor, Thor: The Dark World, and Thor: Ragnarok. I don't know what one will be the best. It's going to be close.
It's a tough one, yeah.
But yeah, so we're going to be watching the Thor movies next.
My friend at work was telling me that we should do these films, so he'll be happy.
Oh, special shout out to you, my man. I did it for you.
I liked Thor: The Dark World when I first saw it. I don't know what's wrong with me.
Hey, looking at like their critical reception, they're not as bad as what you would assume they are. Like
Thor: The Dark World is always touted as like the second worst Marvel Universe film, though.
It is. So it'll be interesting to go back and watch it because I haven't. So it'll be interesting to
okay.
see what it's like now. And I feel like I've been watching Loki. I know you guys aren't at the moment, but a lot of people are. It's makes me want to watch these movies again. So
Fair enough.
Marvel fans. All right, cool. Well, thank you for joining us since this fortnight's installment of The Good, the Bad, and the Worst. Follow us on all the socials. Share this with anyone who you like or admire or respect or would kill if they killed your dog. We will catch you next week.
with a freaking pencil.
I'm going to kill them all!